Today, I'm going to share with you 10 things I regret buying in GTA Online. Hopefully, this video can save you from wasting some of your hard-earned money as I did with mine. But with that being said, the number 10 spot goes to Stilt Apartments or non-functional properties. Now, the main properties I'm focusing on are the Stilt Apartments or the quote-unquote mansions up in the hills that you're able to get, and in the past I bought quite a few of them because I liked the idea of having a mansion in-game like Franklin did in story mode. But unfortunately, they're just not functional whatsoever, especially if you're going in and out of those apartments a lot and you're driving, you don't even have an Oppressor Mark II or a Sparrow like I did at the time. Getting around the hills is such a pain, and so anytime that I was doing the missions for the original Heist or anything similar to that, it just made the process a lot harder, took a lot longer, and when you compare them to something like the Eclipse building or the buildings in downtown Los Santos, the fact that you could have multiple units in those buildings and the fact that they're centrally located just makes it not even comparable. But it's only in the number 10 spot because in the number 9 spot we have something even worse, which is every time that I've purchased office decor or any kind of cosmetic or useless upgrades for a business. I've done this quite a bit, mainly in the past, years ago, but buying or changing the office decor or changing the style of the apartment at the end of the day is a pretty pointless thing to do because I barely spend any time in these properties, so the fact that I've wasted millions of dollars on making them look better is just a complete waste of money and definitely a regret that I have. But at least they've only cost me a couple $1,000,000. The number 8 spot, on the other hand, has cost me many millions of dollars, and that is buying the wrong business locations. I cannot stress how important this is in game for everybody, but it's a mistake I'd made multiple times. I've bought the wrong nightclub location, like the one down at Elysian Island, which makes the cell missions a lot harder. I've also bought the bunker way out in Paleto Bay, which essentially doesn't allow you to do a solo cell mission if you have 3 vehicles. You have to have 1 or 2, so that definitely hinders your ability to make money. And even something like buying the hangar in the LSIA airport versus up in Fort Zancudo was a big mistake on my end. Now, while buying the wrong location isn't the end of the world because you could always just buy a new location and move there, what makes it really costly is that the upgrades that you bought for your businesses, like let's say with the bunker, the staff upgrade, the equipment upgrade, security upgrade, if you had purchased any of those upgrades for the business, when you go to move locations, those upgrades don't move with you, which means you have to repurchase them all at the new location. And I've done that with the nightclub, with the bunker, even with the MC businesses as well. And it has cost me probably $10–15 million over my years of playing GTA Online. So those are definitely some of my worst purchases of all time. But at least in the meantime, before I moved locations, I was able to make some money and recoup some of that loss. In the number 7 spot, we have a business that I don't think I'm going to make anywhere close to the amount of money I put into it, and that is the Arena War Workshop. Now, when this first came out, it was really cool because a lot of people played the Arena War modes. It's essentially a large coliseum where you go at it with other people in these mini games using these death vehicles, if you want to call it that. It's a lot of fun. It was cool when it came out, but there's really only one thing, or that's really the only way to make money with the business. And the business costs so much money, it is not even funny. So you're putting in many millions of dollars into the business, many millions into the vehicles that you use in those little game modes, and then all you get back from it is maybe like 10 or 20k for playing one of those mini games. Now, it is unfortunate because the business is fun and it's a really cool concept, but it's just a huge money sink, and it's definitely one of my worst purchases because I think I've only spent a total of maybe an hour or 2 actually playing those games. But on the bright side, it can't be worse than number 6 on the list, which is something that has never made me money, and that is the casino Penthouse. Now, similar to the Stilt Apartments or the mansions in the game, it is a really cool property to have in the game. It is a full penthouse unit on the top floor of the casino. But aside from getting extra chips at the casino or the high rollers table, or even the missions that come with it, aside from those things, it doesn't really provide any value whatsoever. And while that wouldn't be too bad if it cost $500,000 or $1 million, it is bad when these things cost many, many millions to buy. So that is why it's one of my worst purchases of all time. It is a cool property, but it is something that I just never use at all. And speaking of things that I never use, in the number 5 spot, I have pointless / redundant vehicles. Now I have quite a few of them, but the best example I could give is my Oppressor Mark 1. I currently have the Oppressor Mark 1 and the Oppressor Mark 2, and when you have the Oppressor Mark 2, it's just better than the first one in every way possible. Now I know some old heads might debate me on this in the comment section, but I just think the Oppressor Mark 2 is a lot better. It has an infinite rocket boost, it has great missiles, it's easy to get around the map, it's just a lot easier to use than the Oppressor Mark 1. And so now the Oppressor Mark 1 is a pointless or redundant vehicle because I almost never use it. I have a similar scenario with some of my armored vehicles, or even something like the Stromberg and the Toreador. The Toreador is essentially a better version of the Stromberg, so no point in having the Stromberg, but I've done this many times, and I think it's just something that naturally happens over the course of GT Online, but unfortunately they do cost a lot of money. So if you're someone in a similar scenario, or might be in that scenario, just think first before you go and buy that vehicle. And staying on the topic of things I don't use, in the number 4 spot we have bad or outdated weapons. Now there are tons of weapons in the game, but there's only really 6 or 7 that I use on a consistent basis. Stuff like the homing launcher, the assault rifle, the special carbine Mark II, the AP pistol. All of those are very good, but I only really use 7 to maybe 9 different weapons for everything, which means that all the other millions of dollars I've spent on other weapons in the game have all gone to waste because I just about never use them at all. So that has definitely been one of my biggest wastes of money, but at least it's happened over a longer period of time. In the number 3 spot, I have something that I wasted a lot of money in all in one go, and that is getting the Swift Deluxe, a $5 million all gold helicopter. 1, it's not even a great helicopter, and 2, the only thing different about it is that it's gold. There is literally no point in buying this thing. There are so many other helicopters that are better than it for a much cheaper price, and at the time I just bought it because I wanted to try it out, and it was definitely a horrible idea because I just essentially lit $5 million on fire. But to be fair, it is a helicopter, it can get me around, which is at least better than the number 2 spot, which is the Orbital Cannon. It can be purchased as a customization for the facility for $900,000, and what it does is it allows you to shoot a missile at a certain target on the map. It could be a player, it could be an area, whatever it may be, and it drops a heavy missile on that area, essentially wiping out anything that's there. Now for an unguided missile, it will cost $500,000, and for a locked-on missile that will guarantee you'll get a kill, it will be $750,000. And to be honest, I think I used it once in a video and have never used it again. And it's probably something that most people who buy it almost never use it, because unless you're a griefer, there's no point in using it for anything. It doesn't come in handy for missions, it doesn't come in handy for heists, there's just no point to it whatsoever. And the fact that every time you shoot it, it's at least going to cost $500,000 means that you can easily spend many millions on this and get no real benefit or use out of it. I personally have never used it in the game, and it's just been essentially a $1.52 million waste of money. But at least it doesn't come anywhere close to my number 1 worst purchase of all time, or my biggest regret, and that is the Super Yacht. This thing cost me roughly $10 million to build and to get, and I think I've spent a total of maybe 3 minutes on it in the 8 months or whatever that I've had it. Now, to be fair, the Super Yacht is actually a really cool property in game. There are multiple stories to it, different rooms you could go inside. There's also a mission storyline that you could play with it, but because it can't be driven, there's no other cool features for it, and there's no real way to make viable money with it. I've just never spent any time on the yacht itself. And so at the end of the day, I had spent $10 million for something that I really have not used, when I could have spent that money on maybe a new car or a new business. But with that being said, those are my top 10 things I regret buying in GT Online. Hopefully this list will help you avoid making the same mistakes I did. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.